Little boy, you should be in your father's arms tonight. Little boy, today the darkness stole your light. And oh, little boy, this never should have happened to a boy. A little boy, I'm sure you're glad it's over, but our hearts are broken without you here. And I heard your mama crying, and I heard the wings of 20 angels flying. There ain't nothing that I can say. Little girl, your presents wrapped, they're waiting for you. Little girl, this house so still, so sad without you. Little girl, this never should have happened to a girl. A little girl, you need to know we're sorry, and our hearts are broken without you here. Today a nation's crying, and I heard the wings of 20 angels flying. Are there any words to say? Would you give new life and then steal it back? Is this all part of the plan? Is this your sovereignty? Were they really called home? No, it can't be that simple. We've wrestled with you, now we crawl away crippled. And I heard our Father crying, and I heard the wings of 20 angels flying.
Let's watch.
Come on, listen
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here, coming at you with another raw narrative. And it's so good to see you guys. Thank you all so much for sticking around. I know it's late, late night tonight, but I really did want to come up and just kind of talk with you guys just a little bit. I always say that, and then, we end up talking to the wee hours of the morning. But the good thing about YouTube is, the lives stay up. You guys could always replay. You could always rewatch the chat, see what's going on. So you're not missing a lot, except for being able to, speak your piece. We try to do that at night court. Hey, NorCal, so Gal, good to see you. And Bo is here. Little Miss Sharon, so good to see you. Thanks for being here. And Meow is here. Hey, Chuchi, thank you for welcoming everybody in and encouraging to hit the like. You guys, that really helps out with getting into the algorithm and all that good stuff. Hey, Dragon Classy Diamond Art, good to see ya. Good to see you guys coming in. And Batgirl, thanks for coming back over. Hey, Meow, good to see you. So good to have you guys. So tonight, hey, Kylie's Nail Candy. And I know we have our late night crowd, so I just love seeing all you guys. Thank you so much for being here. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about Devlin Tate's case, right? Because we mentioned it talking on Jen's panel. Guys, go back and watch that replay. It is so good. We did a good job, I think. I always feel so bashful, like we did so good. But I think we did good. And I appreciate everybody being, in the chats and, just conversating, going back and forth. And hashtag no dark triads here. I have to make a sign that says that. That's too funny. Oh my gosh, you guys, we were talking a little bit of everything over at Jen's, which it was really much needed. Usually, I don't go on an early live, and usually Jen doesn't go on late live. So I was so glad when she wanted to do a collab because, there's so much going on in Sebastian Rogers' case. There's so much going on in Devlin's case. It's just nonstop, really, which is a good thing because we don't want things to go cold. We want to find these children. We want to, and I know, Devlin questionably, he's a young man. Um, Sebastian now would be 17. So in that regard, we're not looking for little children per se. And so that's tough. Hey, Angela, that's tough in and of itself. I go back and forth with theories about Devlin Tate. Um, I'm always going to try to lead me where the facts go. Oh, thank you, Meow. I will definitely check. I've been trying to get back with folks, and I'm so sorry if it does take me a little while to get back with you guys. I apologize for that. I know sometimes I will go in there and check my email, and then I'll read something, forget to reply, or I go in there and I'm like, oh, something else. Like I said, squirrel. Hey, Gail, happens, and the next thing you know, I'm onto something else. Yesterday, I had a really productive day in terms of just kind of getting a little bit more information, trying to kind of narrow down a timeline for Devlin, right? Because with Devlin's case, it was during the day that this had to have happened because alarm bells were ringing at 6:30 p.m., right? As Sabrina Devlin's family member was sounding the alarm bells at 6:30 Eastern time. His mother Jessica had gotten a call at 7:30 Eastern, and it just kind of snowballed after that, right? Where Devlin was reported missing at 10:30 p.m. So Sabrina said that she was looking for Devlin, right? Which she was notifying people. And like I said, the alarm bells were ringing at that time. So whatever transpired had to have happened before that time, as Lake Odessa is not a large area. And I would just kind of deduct that if Sabrina was driving around the area looking for Devlin, she would have found him by going to the places that he's most familiar with. Devlin has a form of autism. Um, he also has a chromosome deletion and cerebral palsy. So I don't like to use this background as much because it's from 5 months. This is when I first started his case. But let me move my big head over here. Um, he was last seen at Carl's supermarket, right, in Lake Odessa. And you can see that in the background. This is Carl's supermarket. This gentleman and his van have nothing to do with any of this, but it's just a screenshot that I was able to take from one of the news clips. This is Devlin Tait, right next to me in the black hoodie. A little bit of a younger picture of him playing the guitar. And then we also have him with his adopted mother, Sandra. And then the two ladies here in the Star Wars shirt and the striped shirt are his family members who he was living with. And so um, Devlin has a very different family dynamic. And for those of you who are new, or maybe you're coming over because you like listening to me about Sebastian's case, and so you've gotten to know Devlin's case, whatever the case may be, um, I just kind of want to give a little bit of background to Devlin, where, as I said, Sandra is his adopted mom, but he was living with his adopted sister, and her daughter is the one in the stripe, or excuse me, the Star Wars shirt. So we have Tamara and Sabrina. Stripe shirt is Tamara, Devlin's sister, and then in the Star Wars shirt is her daughter Sabrina. Sabrina was the one that was alarming everyone at 6:30 p.m. that Devlin was not responding back and that he had not contacted anyone all day. So, hey Holly S, good to see you. So it's very mysterious. Now, Devlin left his house. Hey Indigo. Devlin left his house and where he was living with Tamara and Sabrina. Sabrina has a boyfriend named Will, and she has a son by her previous husband. But they were also living in the house with Devlin. So he wakes up, according to Sabrina and Tamara, and he leaves the house around 7:30 a.m. And there is a sighting of Devlin, and I played that interview where one of the McDonald's employees said, and he's a manager, said that his manager was scheduled for 8 a.m. that morning, the morning of April 21st, 2025. And she said that she saw Devlin behind the Family Dollar and he was by the dumpsters. Right, and so then we know that he made it to Carl's at 8:21 a.m. because he did use his bridge card to purchase something to eat and something to drink, and that's the very last transaction on Devlin's bridge card, and that's a food card or EBT card, that he would use to get food. Hello, Witchy Mama. Good to see you. Oh, I'm so glad. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. So, it's very questionable, right? Because Devlin was then going to head over to the laundromat. And the way that we know that Devlin was at the laundromat is that Tammy's brother, which would make that also Devlin's brother by adoption, was speaking was speaking with Devlin on the phone because Devlin tried to call Sandra and Matt lives there. So Matt picks up the phone and Sandra was using the bathroom. And Devlin never did talk to Sandra, but he stayed on the phone with Matt for 30 minutes. And so that would bring us to about 9:30 a.m., right? And then there is a confirmed sighting of Devlin around 3:45ish, 3:30, and he is petting someone's dog. Um, and then he heads back in the direction of his home, right? And so around that time, we can kind of break it down to about 3:30 to 6:30, right? Give or take. When Sabrina called Devlin in, it was 10:30 p.m. So the alarm bells start going off, and by alarm bells, I'm talking about Sabrina calling people, asking if they've heard from Devlin, etc. And then after her not being able to find him for all of that time, right? So from 6:30 to 10:30, she finally calls in and says, I can't find Devlin. He was supposed to be home. Now, a couple of things. Hey, Snack Pack. A couple of things. Devlin would mostly come home around the time of 6 and 8 p.m., but he did have a curfew that was court ordered by the judge of 10 o'clock p.m., right? So they wait till 32 minutes after that. They call, and we have the dispatch audio from the scanner, and that is confirmed to be 10:32 p.m. And they call Devlin in and they say that he may be at Joni Sauer's house, who is an old parapro of Devlin's from junior high school that he would sometimes go over and visit. According to Joni, he would visit her a couple of times a week, 2 to 3 times a week to be exact, from what she said. She said that the visits were always short and that he was never allowed to come into her home. And no, I didn't mute my mic. I just wanted that to sink in. That information was never, I'll just say that that information was not asked by the interviewer. I did not do this particular interview, but the person who did not ask if he was ever invited into her home. She just automatically made sure that we knew that. That's always gonna be a red flag for me. Now, am I saying that Joni has something to do with this? No, I'm not. But what I'm saying is that I put that into a box and I don't forget about it, right? In my brain. Hey, Shadow. So, I think that's really something that's very important to do when you have that kind of a red flag go off when you're listening to an interview. Now, I do want to say that the police tried to make contact with Joni. There was a little bit of back and forth and him hawing around, and Joni was not happy with law enforcement, according to what she said to Piper in an interview that we've played and reviewed here. And it's also always, I'm going to put those interviews up so y'all can watch them without my commentary because, as we learned tonight on Jen's show, we can really, even if we're just sitting here listening to it ourselves, over and over and over again, we hear different things as we're listening again and listening again, even to the smallest little excerpt, right? Because again, sometimes we're not giving it our full attention, whatever the case may be. Sometimes we just need to hear it because there's a lot in a small statement, even. Bobby said a lot in the statement that we played a bunch of times, right? What she was saying was very important. And, it deserves to kind of have that extra attention, that stopping and playing it back, is very important. We do that a lot, right? Because we do miss things. And so, again, there was moments in the interview with the parapro that happened. Um, and some might ask, well, why did Devlin go to the parapros? Devlin was having a lot of issues with family at that time. Devlin was under a guardianship with his family members, one being Sabrina, And there was a lot of back and forth. So when Devlin turned 18, it's been alleged that Devlin's SSI was cut off, right? Because that just happens natural, or normally. And then you have to reapply. And then it's also been alleged that Devlin was emancipated and a judge gave him full reign to take care of himself and said he didn't need anyone overseeing him. Um, in my opinion, that caused a lot of issues. Not that there weren't issues before that, not that that was, the catalyst. It's just part of what I would like you guys to consider about Devlin's case, because I think it has some to do with his disappearance, and it might not be the main motive, but I think that it needs to be looked at. So Devlin was in a position, in my opinion, where he wanted to kind of do his own thing, didn't really want anybody overseeing him. He kind of got that okay with the judge. And then, Devlin was getting himself into some pickles with the law. Let's just put it that way. He put himself in a very bad situation. He was on probation. Um, and he was not acting appropriately. Now, just when you might think that if you're new here, you might think you're confused about the family dynamic, I'm going to add Devlin's biological mother, Jessica, to the mix, right? So we have Jessica Peckham, who lives in Arizona, who got in contact with her son again around the time that he was 18 years old. Okay. And with him getting involved with his mother, I have deducted and I have taken into account what his family has told me about this relationship, what his mother has told me about this relationship, and I've considered everything that would bring me to this conclusion. Devlin had not a mother son relationship with her, or excuse me, with his mother, Jessica, but more of a friendship with his mother. There was a certain amount of boundaries that had been crossed. There was a lot of Jessica acting hard and then um, and modeling that behavior for her son. And I really think that that was coming through in Devlin's behaviors. And I think that he may have been trying to be a badass, so to speak, to impress his mother, because his mother is on the rougher side, whereas Devlin really needed someone who was more understanding of his circumstances. And because Devlin didn't have that, he was always seeking out validation from anyone who would give him attention. And so that's where we go back to Joni Sowers, right? Because he would show up at Joni's house randomly, right? And that's why I'm not going to completely, throw Joni under the bus, because I have a heart for kids, and I could imagine being a teacher and in a position where a student, a former student of mine, is coming over without a coat in the wintertime, for an example that she gave. I would give him a cup of hot chocolate. I might even let him sit on my couch. I would be like wanting him to get out of the cold. You know what I'm saying? I might have made a bad decision because of my heart, right? I'd be thinking with my heart and not with my brain at that point. And you know, some might be like, well, that's no big deal. But from a professional standpoint, she would have to very much watch her ass with that one, right? And not, um, you know, and maybe not think with her heart. So maybe she was watching her ass and absolutely never let him in the house, right? But we just don't know. Um, we just don't know. And so on the night of April 21st, 2025, Devlin's phone pinged in the trailer park where Joni Sowers lives. And then it's never been turned on to the best of my knowledge, and it never pinged after 11:30, we'll just say 11:40 p.m., right? Um and that's a confirmed that's a confirmed law enforcement ping, just so everyone knows. So, when we consider all of this information, it is confusing and there's a lot to it. So, I started working on Devlin's case at about the 5-month mark, and he's been missing now for going on 9 months. And I can't help but think that he's not so far away, right? Like there's something that tells me that we're going to find Devlin, but we just really have to pull together as much as we can in order to find him because we're working with a very small amount of time. And so I'm thinking that if we're looking at somewhere between 3:30 and 6:30, then Devlin must have gotten into a car, right? But then some people will say, but how did his phone ping at the trailer park? And I would have to say that we have to follow that fact, right? So whoever did something, in my opinion, with or to Devlin, drove him somewhere or took him somewhere or hurt him during that time period. Well, one, it'd have to be very fast. Two, it was still light out, right, during the day. And, somebody premeditated this, right, I would think, unless it was someone who just kind of drove up on him or someone that he met. One thing that's very important to consider with Devlin is, again, he was an 18-year-old boy going on 19, just shy of his 19th birthday. And even though he had different circumstances dealing with his health, uh, or different diagnoses, right? He was still very able to do everything that he wanted to do. I mean, he ran the streets, right? And then as a result of running the streets, we all know that any of us would get in trouble while we're out running the streets, right? That's why we know it's safer to stay inside or whatever, but he was in a very vulnerable position, you know? So, yeah, mirroring Jessica's, behaviors, exactly, Chuchi, I know, and you're probably doing voice to text because mine always says Dublin too. I have to change it over. Aw, thank you, Little Miss Sharon, for gifting a Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives membership. Make sure you guys say thank you to Little Miss Sharon and welcome to the Dragon Tribe. Aw, oh, Batgirl got it. Well, congratulations, Batgirl, that's awesome. Hey, Miss Anne, happy birthday. Thank you for being here. Hey, Chuchi said, thank you for gifting a Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives membership. Oh, make sure you say thank you to Chuchi and welcome to the Dragon Tribe. You guys, thank you. Oh, see, look, Sam says ping, ping. Ping, ping. Hey, Kitty Hawk. Dot, dot, dot. Um, you know, amazing, amazing. Ah. Oh, Shadow, welcome to the Dragon Tribe, Shadow. Yay. You guys are all the Dragon Tribe. I'm guessing, Kitty, it could be in a 30-mile radius. I mean, that's the thing. Devlin had some different paths that he would take when he would go to different places. So, for instance, he had ties to uh, Hastings, Michigan, right? Because that's where Sandra lives. And um, so he would walk there. He would walk everywhere he went because he didn't have a car or a driver's license. So that's another thing to consider with Devlin. There was a very tumultuous relationship, in my opinion, because of him reuniting with Jessica. There was a major issue with that and the family, because when I say that there's bad blood with Jessica and the family, I don't even know if that's adequately describing what was going on. Um, yeah, well, and that's a big one, Sam. Family is telling him not to say that he loved them. And because there was a lot of back and forth about his communicating with Jessica. Now, when I look at this as an outsider looking in, I can see all parties' perspectives, right? I could see where Jessica would be coming from. I could see where Tamara would be coming from. I could see where Sabrina might be coming from, right? I'm trying to keep an open mind when it comes to that, because there was a lot of unhealthy exchanges between Devlin and his mom. And one of the more unhealthy exchanges was a situation where Devlin was accosted by a woman either at the park or at a park. And Devlin felt uncomfortable about this interaction with this woman, so much so that because of what he said, I think that there should have been some police involvement. But I could tell that Devlin was very embarrassed about what happened, and he was likely only to confide in his mom that he did. And by his mom, I mean Jessica. And Jessica asked Devlin if Sandra knew about this, and Devlin said no, and she's not going to. Right? So, any of us that have had something like that happen to us, we understand that there's a level of embarrassment, guilt, and even sometimes we blame ourselves. And I think that all of those factors would have kept Devlin from going to LE, but I think it should have been encouraged, and it never was. And so we don't know who this mystery lady is that did this to Devlin, because there's so many ladies in that town that have had access to Devlin. Even a person named Lori who said that Devlin would often be caught sleeping in her barn. And Devlin had also asked this woman if he could move in with her because he didn't want to live where he was living anymore. And that was, with Tamara and Sabrina. Yeah. Yeah, it's Kitty Hawk. That's pretty much what it was. His adoptive mother said, "Do not tell me that you love me anymore," because he was also calling Jessica mom, and then he started calling Sandra Sandra, right? And then if I'm looking at it from Sandra's standpoint, I'm sure that hurt her as well, and that could be why she was saying something like that. in the same way, I just don't think it was something that should have ever been said. It's very sad, Batgirl. It's very sad. What Devlin has gone through um, is a lot for anyone to imagine. Um, how long was Jessica in the family, or how long was she the person connected to the family, and who is that again? So yeah, so I will pop up this, and this is a horrible example, guys, because it's changed a little bit. But this is kind of a family tree for Devlin. Sandra and Bill Tait are the adoptive parents. Jessica is his mother. And then if you look, Timothy Hatfield is right next to Jessica, and that is the guy that signed the birth certificate. He is Tamra's in the striped shirt son. And he and Jessica and Tim were married for, I believe it was about 3 years. Don't quote me on that exactly, but they were apparently married for about 3 years, um, to the best of my recollection. And so Jessica is very adamant about Adam Nolan being Devlin's father, but I've been doing a lot of research on the subject, and there's some things that I want to share with you, but not right now. I think there's some other things that are more important for us to examine as well, but I just kind of want to put it out there that I do not believe that Adam Nolan is Devlin's biological father. At one point, I had to take his mother's word for that because I wasn't there. I'm not Maury Povich. I don't have a lie detector. I don't have a what do you call it? Paternity test, right? That's not my forte. Um, so there's that. But there's going to be some more things coming out. Matt Tait is the one that was the last one to speak with Devlin in the family when he called Sandra's, right? Because Matt was living there. One thing I do want people to know, in case you don't, that Matt isn't a registered SO. So is his wife Lorraine, right? But I will say that Matt has been very forthcoming with information in Devlin's case, and there's been a lot of things that I've been able to corroborate. Same thing goes for Tamra. Tamra's not an RSO, but there's been a lot that I've been able to corroborate that makes me trust what they're saying a little bit more, right? And that's all I can do. And that's all that they can do is build trust with me. I can build trust with them, right? So that's the only thing that I can do. I just know that we need to find Devlin. And so that's the most important thing to me. You know, whether we get along or we like each other or we agree, that's really doesn't matter to me as long as we can find Devlin and bring him home, and that's my main goal, right? Also, guys, Will is the guy in the picture that's Sabrina's boyfriend, um, right? So a lot. Yeah, I think he's 99.9999999% not the father either, Chuchi. Um if I'm just looking at this picture, I'm going to guess that Timothy Hatfield is Devlin's father. That is my best guess. I will say that Ed Mansfield is also a contender, right? And then you know, with the way that Devlin just resembles Bill Tate, in my opinion. Um, and so, you know, that's kind of what we're going to be exploring. But I've been looking into it. Not really that it matters because Devlin's father, if he has one, who he referred to as his father is Bill Tate. Right, and I would never take that away from Devlin because that's who he considers to be his father, Bill Tate, right? So, and None of the other fathers in question have come forward to search for Devlin to the best of my knowledge, right? To the best of my knowledge. And so if they have, I apologize in advance, but I have never seen, nor have they reached out to me and said, "Hey, Lady Freedom, thanks for, covering my son's case." Because that's kind of what I'm used to from a father, even though I know Seth has a little bit of a higher standard to a lot of these parents in general. But I've never seen them come in my chat and say, "Hey, I'm Devlin's father and thank you for what you're doing," or "Hey, I'm Devlin's father and I don't like what you've said and you're wrong," I mean, either is accepted, but neither has happened. And so, you know, um there's just a lot to be said, about that this child needs somebody that's advocating for him. Now, I do want to say that Tamra, and I did email her back yesterday. Tamra has gotten Devlin out on Namus, right? So he's active on Namus. Also, he is been registered with Missing in America. So those are two things that um, Tamra has done, and among other things, to build awareness that Devlin's missing. So again, I'm putting that in the trust folder, right? Because when I tried to get Jessica to reach out to resources, she was not. I know, Kitty Hawk. I mean, it's an uncanny. I mean, but upon further research, I've found that I don't think that that would be a possibility. Which, I mean, that's why I'm thinking Tim, since he resembles, how it skips a generation type of a thing. Yeah, but they're spitting image of each other. Um, OMG, thank you for the gifted membership. Yay, Shadow. Yay. Aw. Yeah, I mean, it's uncanny, guys. Watch, or excuse me, Witchy Mama says, is anyone good with AI? I wonder if dealing pick and possible fathers are fed, what it would say. That's that's funny. I'm not so good with the AI, um, but I know there's other people that are, and so that would be interesting. That would be the best thing that I could really do to decipher it because, I mean, I've watched the different shows and I've made my judgment. Oh yeah, that is the father, and then it turns out not to be the father. So that's why I say I can't. I wish I could offer that, but I just can't. Yeah, Tamara's putting in effort. Thanks, Sam. Exactly. And I mean, quickly, as soon as she was given the information for Missing in America, to the best of my knowledge, she already had Devlin signed up. So by the time I got it over to, I believe it was Devlin's grandma that I sent it to, because I had already, begged Jessica to do it with other resources, and she would not. It was like we were way behind on the game, and I don't care who signs him up as long as somebody signs him up in the family. I can't. I wish I could, but before I could even get it over quick enough, Tamara got him on it, and that speaks volumes to me. Um, I will always be honest with what people are doing. I'm not going to praise Jessica for something that um Tamara did. I'm not going to praise Tamara for something Jessica did. I'm going to be honest with you guys in the way that I analyze these cases. So that way you guys have the best knowledge to work from. If I was to, treat anybody differently, then I would be not giving you guys the good info to work from. And it's really important for us to have that in order for us to make good choices and decisions with what we spend our time on. Um, and in my opinion, there's a lot to be said when the mother of a missing child is not doing what she needs to be doing, but his sister is, or his grandma. I mean, she was his grandma, right? Because she's Timothy's mom. Timothy Hatfield's mom. But then whenever her mother adopted Devlin, she became his sister. But either way, she's advocating for him. So I'm never going to down her for that. There may have been things that she's, not happy with the way that she did things or whatever, but she's doing it now. We'll always applaud that effort. Um Hey Faye, good to see you. Good morning. And it's possible that Devlin just doesn't want to be associated with toxic dysfunctional family anymore. Kitty, that's a strong one for me. That is a strong that is a strong one for me, along with that maybe Devlin just doesn't want to go to court, which he did have a court date, right? That was scheduled for the day after he went missing. Now, a little bit about that. So, Devlin had court on Tuesday. He was supposed to be taken to court by Matt Tait. His son, Jonathan, was set to drive him to court, go pick him up and take him to court. But he went missing, and so that never happened. Devlin was looking at about maybe a year for everything since he was on probation. He had a probation violation, excuse me. He had a probation violation. There was a couple of things that were going on with the law in Devlin, you know? Um, yeah, it is awesome, Sam. We have to get the family to do these things, or they need to just do it themselves, which it's tough for them because a lot of people don't know what to do, So, I mean, you would just think that if you give people resources, they would just be so happy to take them and they would, do what they need to do with them, and let us handle other things that we can do. If a person is an artist, they will know who is the relative and mother or father by looking at photos. I mean, I like to think I'm pretty good with facial features, Kitty. Um, but it is genetics are kind of tough because, again, you can look like your grandpa, you can look like your grandma, like a spitting image. You know, one of my brother's daughters looks just like my mother, just like her, a spitting image of her. It's scary kind of, because my mom passed away in 2006, and when I saw my brother's daughter, a picture of her, like, I think it was more when she was about like 2 or 3 where I noticed, like, it was just, I mean, and as she's gotten older, just like my mother. Um, and then that's a beautiful gift, I think. So, yeah, she has time to grift for Christmas, and this isn't the first Christmas she did it, we found proof of her doing that before too, Um, so, I mean, that's the problem that we have there with that one, and here's the thing, I'm never going to sugarcoat these people. It's not about them, it's about Devlin. That's not fair to Devlin if I was to be like, "Oh yeah, everything's hunky dory, nothing to see here. This is everybody's great." No, it's not great, or he wouldn't be just poof missing. You know, we got to be real. Wait, Sabrina's boyfriend name is Will. Is that Devlin's pop's name too? I found a obit spitting image. Yep, that's the obit picture is a spitting, because that's Bill when he's younger. Yeah, Sam, and Bill is actually William. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And I have a friend named Billy, and his name's just Billy, so I call him Billiam because because William is excuse me, because Bill is short for William. Oh my goodness. See what happens when you guys get me really late night, then I'm just silly. No, I don't I'm in a position where I have to have some amount of trust that, but I check everything. I fact check everyone, Faye. I do, because I've just been lied to too many times by too many people. Too many people have selective memory, right? Or selective memory loss, where all of a sudden, when I start asking them questions, and any of you new creators who are out there and you think you know everything, okay, come talk to me after you've done your research. Come talk to me then, because these people have selective memory loss or selective memory when I ask them direct questions about the day that Devlin went missing. Hell, they can't even remember what happened on Easter Sunday, because the day before Devlin went missing was Easter Sunday. And they can't tell me what they did on Easter Sunday. And for someone like Sabrina, who has, just a little cute little baby, right? I mean, I can tell you what I did on every single Easter with my little baby. Maybe my memory is better than other people's. I mean, did you do an Easter egg hunt? What did you do? I mean, I know he's only 2 years old, but there had to have been stuff that you guys did as a family, or you watched him open his Easter basket. None of that is recalled. But you can tell me a full-on conversation that happened 3 months ago, but you can't tell me what happened when I start asking you direct questions about Easter Sunday, about that Monday. It's ludicrous. So be my guest, and when, you've gone batshit crazy, give me a call, because it's gonna happen. You're gonna get very frustrated with the way that people, you know, can miraculously forget and can't remember a darn thing. And I'm just trying to get out of the bottom of this. Billiam. He says, "My name's not really William. It's just Billy, just plain Billy." And I was like, "Oh, you mean Billiam? Your formal name is Billiam?" I'm just silly like that, guys. I'm just silly like that. Gail says, "I was wondering about the search team that was supposed to come that Jessica spoke to. Whatever happened with that?" So the first, good question, Gail. So the initial search team was referred by United Cajun Navy. So shout out to United Cajun Navy. We contacted them first. And when I say we, I mean Chuchi had sent me over their information. I got it over to Jessica. She called them and they referred her to a group out of Wyoming because she lives in Arizona. So when they realized what had happened there, Find 911, the group out of Wyoming, contacted the local search and rescue group, which is Backwoods Search and Rescue. And they had already been searching, but again, guys, um, I'm learning as I go. And the thing is that they already have active resources in Lake Odessa and in and around the area that weren't only active right at the beginning, they are still active until this day. And so they've been working the case. So it was almost like, we just didn't know that they were working it. And so we're like, okay, let's get these resources. But then come to find out everything that they needed is being done. I mean, they could always use more help, I'm sure, but they have equipment and technology that everybody else, has their hands on as well. So they're utilizing it, like the drones and all of that. And there's boots on the ground investigating Devlin's case. We just welcomed a new member. Well, we did because, it's a new person. Um, and it's kind of a group of people. I've showed Piper's interviews here, but Heather Marie is doing a good job. The only thing that I disagree with on Heather's timeline is only a minor detail, and that is that Devlin's girlfriend Marie, she says that there was a Life 360 ping at 9:30 over at the sewer treatment plant in Lake Odessa. In my opinion, I'm gonna believe what Matt says, that he was on the phone with Devlin at that time, because I believe he was. Um, Devlin had to get his phone charged and he was at the laundromat talking with Matt. I haven't heard anything that would corroborate that any differently, but I will also say that we have never seen proof of this ping. So that's the only reason why I'm not so quick. Now, if Heather Marie was to put something out, or whoever, I'm not, bad mouthing anything. I appreciate all of those women and everything that they're doing, and men too. Piper's husband helps out. I believe his name is Chris. If I get that wrong, I'm sorry. Really seems like a sweet guy, that really want to help, and they've also joined search and rescue efforts. So it's just something that is going really, really well at this time, in my opinion, with everybody doing their part and kind of staying in their own lane. Hey, Mama, but everybody's working together, right? And so just recently we've added that group to, an awareness is through the roof for Devlin, in my opinion, when it comes to Piper's audience is very wide. TikTok is buzzing about Devlin. Things are going well in his case. Another update I wanted to bring to you guys. Yeah, Gail, it is awesome. See, because that's how the United Cajun Navy works. And one thing I wanted to say as well, with Sebastian's case, the United Cajun Navy was there already in Nashville because of Riley Strain. They were gracious enough to offer their services, but they were threatened and pushed out of helping search for Sebastian Rogers, right? But they're an amazing group that even if they cannot help, they make sure that they get people to help. Like they absolutely did everything to refer us to the right place, to refer us to the right place, right? And then we were referred to the truth and what was really going on. And I am oh so grateful for that, because it took a very big weight off of, everything, knowing that there's people that really do care and that are looking, because I was hearing a lot of weird stuff about the reward, and the bake sale, and how things were just very wackadoodle do, right? And it was something that was concerning to me, and concerning. Let me cover this part up. um because we're actually on to 8 months. So, but whoopsie daisy, I was supposed to save that because it's not 7 months today. Sorry. Um, you know, uh, but I was hearing about reward monies that were taken. Now we're gonna hear from Sabrina again. Sabrina did a 4-hour live with me, but she also did a live with Piper, where Piper was asking her questions as well. We need more help like Piper and less crisis actors, in my opinion. I love that, Chuchi. Crisis actor, crisis actor. But for real, more people who are about finding Devlin and not about look at me, right? I mean, Piper is just like any of us, any of our, any of us other creators, right? Where, I mean, a lot of times I'll show myself, guys, I just didn't have time to get ready and stuff today, and I'm like, you know, um, but because I would have liked to have gone live with Jen, with both of us, our shiny, happy faces. But instead my hair's in a bun and I look disheveled. Um, but again, Piper just that's kind of her style. She just goes on live stream, right? So she does like the get ready with me kind of thing. She'll be brushing her hair, doing her thing, and just talking as she goes along. So she does a little different of a show than I do. But she does a great job, guys, and it's about the missing. Like I could tell that about Piper the first time I watched her. That I could tell she was about the facts. I could tell that her brain was working in the same direction as mine was, given the information that she had at the time. And I thought it was very um, good that we had someone who is critically thinking, who is tracking things down, who is willing to talk to people. She has a way with people. And I think that's great. And I'm so appreciative. Like I said, couldn't have asked for more. And I was praying heavily that someone would come along like Piper that would be willing to um you know, do awareness, pass out flyers. Piper even went to Greenville, guys. And the coolest thing I thought when I saw Piper go to the hotel where Devlin was said to have been seen is that the front desk agent remembered me calling her, and then here's Piper because I could not get a flyer to them because they wouldn't give me an email. They didn't have an email for me to send it to them, right? But Piper shows up, I think it was like 2 or 3 days later, maybe a week. And the lady said, "Oh yeah, he's the kid that's been missing and blah blah blah." And it was just so cool. And they didn't have a flyer, but now they do. That is an army in action, guys. And Piper didn't know about me at that time, right? She just knew that there was a sighting in Greenville and she got in her vehicle and went there. Bada boom, bada bing. You know what I'm saying? That's how we work together without working together, see? Um she also helped me confirm that the Facebook post was deleted. Because I was like, "Did you snap that from mine or did you snap that from from his account?" "Oh, I snapped that from his account. "Oh, shit. Okay, there we go. That's how we work together, guys. That is how we do it. Sammy says, from LE perspective, it would be unusual for someone to remember minor details about a random insignificant day. What do you have for lunch on October 16th? I'm not asking them what they had for lunch, Sammy. I'm not asking them what they had for lunch. I'm asking them what happened that day, and they can't tell me. They can't tell me. Do I remember everything that I eat on Easter Sunday? No, because we usually have ham. So, I mean, that would probably be what we ate on Easter Sunday, mashed potatoes, whatever. Um, but so that would be easier for me to recall because it's usually traditional. But no, I wasn't asking them an in-depth question like that. No, not at all. I don't remember what happened on Easter Sunday. You don't? Okay, so you remember nothing about Easter Sunday. I asked the same question in different ways at least 3 times. So again, this issue with memory loss, but you can tell me every single thing that you told Devlin on any other day of the week. I don't think so. You know? Um, yeah, that's just it just doesn't your comment isn't making any sense to me, Sammy. Sorry. Um I know, witchy. I know it's terrible. Well, and I don't even mind about the makeup thing, but I mean, oh god, my hair is just all crazy. And then I had to in between lives get some coffee because, I wanted to be a little bit more alert. So oh, Jen is Astrology for Mystics with Jen, Kitty Hawk, and she does work with the Find Me group in missing children's cases. She does astrology charts based on the um, the times, right? And she adds everything to the chart. And I'm probably not doing her the kind of justice that I should be doing, but um Jen is very good at finding hot spots. She has a certain method and way that she does things, but important addresses are always a big one. She does everything for free for the missing, which I think is fantastic. She also does people's birth charts for them, for a fee. But so much that Jen brings to the table. Again, when I was there visiting, we went to a few different places that she wanted to show me. Um, the first place we went was by Sebastian's school. Then we went into the cemetery. That's been widely talked about since. And then also we went to a place called Stop 30. I call it Stop 30. It's actually Stop 30 Road. And there's a spot off of the beaten path that there could have been some type of activity that happened perhaps on the way home from the Texas Roadhouse. Yes, the community has been great, Sam. That is a stark difference, right? The community has been receptive and open to allowing the flyers, and it's nice. And no one has threatened, to my knowledge, any search teams or any efforts like that either, Sam. Bingo. And that's so much different than what we see in Sebastian's case. You know, um, it's a stark difference. Yeah, they do, Chuchi. They do. And I love how people will try to discount me when I've talked to these people myself, right? It's amazing to me. I know. What the hell did they do that day, Sam? Yeah, like I'm sorry that you guys not you guys, but Sammy particularly expects me to believe that that they have no idea what they did that day. You have no idea what you did the day that your family member went missing and you were the one that was raising alarm bells? No, that's not going to ever be okay with me. I would be a shitty investigator. I'd be a shitty YouTuber if I would even take that for face value. That is not, I'm no way. That's never going to happen here. Until it's confirmed, I don't believe it. And I mean confirmed with proof. I'm not just gonna say, "Well, your family member went missing, so you don't even, have the recollection because of that." No, that has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with they don't want me pinning down what happened that day. Thank you, Kitty, a numerologist. A numerologist. It's about numbers. It is about numbers. Um, it wasn't this was, years after Easter Sunday. I'm not part of the Christian faith, but I can tell you what day it was, and some of my kiddos do celebrate it, and we do the Easter bunny, yeah, basket, yeah, yeah, for the little ones, yeah. I would remember what we did as a family. Yeah, they don't want to tell me witchy because the problem is that they weren't doing anything as a family. In my opinion, Devlin walked to the church separately. They all went to the same church. They all went to the same church. They all, excuse me, when I say they all, I'm talking about Sandra and Matt Tait's wife is Lorraine. Sandra and Lorraine went to church and Lorraine drove them there and Devlin walked separately to church. When Devlin got to church, it's been alleged that Devlin had, from the source, that Devlin ate with Pastor Marilyn, right? Pastor Marilyn told me that oh, it's a good thing I'm not cammed up today because you guys would see the disgust on my face. Um, she told me that she ate with Devlin and two other people that night, right? And then or excuse me, that day, and that because it was a church dinner after service, and then she went or excuse me, then she gave him, a Easter basket. Like I said, she doesn't have selective memory. She can tell me exactly what happened with no issues. But all of a sudden, when it comes to someone who's close to his family, they can't give me details like that. There's a big red flag. There's a big red flag. it's just amazing with I mean, it's just amazing to me that people think that they know more about this case than I do. It amazes me. Uh, Sandwich says, based on the official reports and the context of the investigation, there is no record of law enforcement or a reputable news source stating that a ping led to the trailer park. Well, I know, Sam, and that's the crazy part. So, okay, there were three news outlets that covered Devlin's case. Well, actually, I think there were two. One of them put out two broadcasts, so there were three broadcasts altogether. And no, they never mention that at all. As a matter of fact, one of the news outlets had to have gotten it wrong because they said in a news article that Devlin Tait left his house at 8:21 a.m., but we know that that's the last purchase from Carl's supermarket. So again, it's been so confusing, right, in that regard. And also, they never got enough of the story from the family members, right? The story that came out more so from the family members was on social media platforms like Facebook, groups, and also podcasts, that the family was willing to come into, like my podcast and other podcasts. I know Tamara has been on some of the TikToks as well, like in the comments. Same thing with Matt Tate, right? And so there are no official media outlets that are reporting any real-time updates on Devlin's case, unfortunately, and they have not since Devlin went missing. And that's why it was also equally frustrating seeing the lack of coverage, but also thinking that no one was searching for Devlin, even though we know that part at least is not true, now. So they know exactly what they were doing. They know exactly what they were doing, you know? So KJ says, you also remember exactly where you were when you heard bad news about a family member. And those are the only questions I was asking, KJ. I was not asking, like, what'd you have for lunch? What shoe size did Devlin wear when he was 2? I wasn't asking questions like that. I was asking very straightforward questions. And every time I would get down to that day, it was like, I don't know. I don't remember, and that's a problem for me. Because as I said before, if Pastor Marilyn can ask, because I spent maybe 45 minutes speaking with her. It was one of the most productive conversations I've had about Devlin thus far. One thing that she confirmed with me was that Devlin was supposed to go meet a girl exactly as Tamara told me at the park that day, and he was super excited to go over and visit with her. Right? So Devlin leaves the church and he goes to visit with another church member and say hello, probably happy Easter. And then he heads over to Swifty's Park to meet this girlfriend of his. And I'm saying that in air quotes, you can't see it. Right? So these are the things that I have been trying to corroborate behind the scenes, right? Because when I feel like I'm not getting a truthful answer, I'm going to go search for the truth, right? If I feel like I'm getting a truthful answer, I will move on accordingly, right? In that direction. But if I feel like I'm not, then I'm going to go try to say, okay, for instance, this is like the best example since we're talking about it. Tamara sent me an email and she was telling me that Pastor Marilyn had told her this information. So as soon as I got a chance to, I reached out and I was able to confirm that. Once I was able to confirm that, things changed a little bit, right? Okay, great. So now I can say definitively that someone, Tamara, is telling me the truth about what happened that day. No, the girlfriend never said, not Marie, Shadow. And that's another thing that is a major issue, right? Because I think Devlin had more than one girlfriend, and Devlin had more than one girlfriend going on at that time. Let's just put it that way. Um, so yeah, yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, Sam. If you heard mention of a trailer park, it's likely oriented from unofficial community discussions or social media rumors, which have not been corroborated by authorities handling the case. Um, yeah, and with that has come a lot of Facebook sightings, Facebook um, blowing up with different accusations. And Facebook has been one of the major spots where things were getting very convoluted, especially with the trailer park, because there was several sightings at the trailer park, Sam, not just with the parapro, the phone ping, but also people saying that Devlin was there, and then he went down toward Sunoco, right? But then the most recent was that it was corroborated that he actually started walking in the opposite direction, would have been towards home for him. So, no, it is so confusing, Shadow. It is. It is. It confuses me because I was under the impression that Devlin had the girlfriend Marie. He wasn't supposed to see her anymore because of their age difference and because of Devlin's um court cases. There was a couple of reasons why, and I don't know his mother. I do not know or have not talked to Marie's mother. But it's just my best guess as another mom that there were some things that were, red flags to her, and she did not want her daughter seeing Devlin anymore. The age would have been a factor for me as well. Right. But then the trouble with the law is a whole nother layer to that. And if you're protecting your daughter, you want your daughter to be with a respectable young man, Um, and so when Devlin was doing things out of, character, it was probably a big issue. Um, it was also said that it was an issue with him finding places to live other than Tammy and Sabrina's house because Devlin was in trouble with the law. So a lot of people were hesitant to let him stay, at their house because he was, on probation. And probation needs to know where you live. Probation needs to be able to pop over when they, see fit. And so nobody was willing to take that responsibility on, you know. Hey, Scranton, good to see ya. Yeah, I know. I know. Well, the pings are one thing too. With the ping on the Life 360, I've never seen any proof of that. I've just never seen any proof of that at all. Jessica said that law enforcement confirmed to her that the ping was at 11 o'clock, but I've heard from a more reliable source that the ping was closer to like 11:30, 11:45. Right? But either way, the ping occurred after the phone call to excuse me, the phone call reporting him missing at 10:30 p.m., you know. Um, if he did have more than one, of who could blame him and need somewhere to sleep or feel cared for. Well, and especially because, there's been a lot of statements from the neighbors that were corroborating that, Witchy. And that's the thing. Like Lori, I'm just going to say that I found Lori excuse me, to not be such a reliable witness. And the reason is because Lori would say something and then she would go back on what she said. And in that, good night, Chuchi. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, thank you. Um, so with that, it's hard to know what was true and what wasn't true, right? Um, Lori said that she saw Devlin on Easter Sunday and he was at Bob's and that he left Bob's around 6:30 p.m., right? And that he was heading home for the night from Bob's. So if he left Bob's at 6:30 p.m., he probably didn't get back home till about 7:30 or 8 o'clock p.m., right? Walking for all the way from Bob's all the way home. So, for a little while, I wasn't convinced that Devlin even made it home on Easter, right? Did he even make it home on Easter? I mean, we were having this conversation with Jen, you know, did he make it home? Devlin, that is, on Easter Sunday. And that's all I was trying to find out from Sabrina and to confirm with her was that he made it home, right? And that's why whenever Sabrina got off the panel the day that she was on, that's when I got the email from Tammy that was explaining Easter a little bit more to me, right? Explaining that Sabrina wasn't with Devlin on Easter during certain period of time. And then when Lori comes in, if we're to believe her, she says that Devlin was hanging over at Bob's that night, which I think that that probably is true. The problem that is very difficult is that we have to weed through these inconsistent statements to get to a final conclusion that makes sense and that is probable, right? There's a lot of forest and woods around Indigo. A lot of forest, woods, water, um, very much so. So again, we're still kind of left with Monday is the day that Devlin went missing. I did want to update you guys on the posts that were deleted off of Facebook. So from what I can gather, the posts were absolutely deleted by someone other than Devlin. If the posts were deleted by Devlin, it would be nothing for the police to track Devlin down. And keep in mind, Facebook Messenger and Facebook the app are two different apps, right? And so they don't connect over. Many of Devlin's family members were coming forward and saying that, and even Lori was one of them, the neighbor who found Devlin sleeping in her barn, was one of them that had said that she tried to message Devlin and that she was getting an error message. And we figured out that the error message is coming because Devlin has not updated his messenger app, and with the new update all of the messages are encrypted, and so because he has not done that update, that's why people are getting an error message when sending him messages on Facebook Messenger, to the best of my knowledge. With the Facebook posts, it's still unknown, but again, just so everybody knows, law enforcement is aware because I made them aware immediately. um Also, Piper's and her team made it aware immediately. And then we also had help from other people as well, along with notifying his family members. Oh, and also I was in a chat last night. Tamara said that she also notified law enforcement. I agree. I agree. It's very problematic, KJ Mac, and I think that in Devlin, well, actually, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this with 100% certainty that law enforcement in Devlin's case is doing everything they can. Everything. So them having this knowledge, they are absolutely on it. And, you know, I often say I pray I'm wrong. I pray I'm not wrong. But my complete and total feeling on that subject is that, and of because of direct knowledge, that the police are following up with every single lead, and something like this, yeah, I think they're gonna find it equally problematic, KJ. It's just it's so difficult because they're not gonna tell us anything. Right? Like, I mean, I made a joke about it and I said they're like the nasty ass honey badgers. I said, they're like, "Thanks for the treat, stupid," and they run away with it, right? And then they handle it. But it is like that. It's like they appreciate, right? Law enforcement is going to take down any and all leads when they're doing their job. And in my opinion, that's what they're doing. And they're absolute I have every faith that they're working on it, with this, because this is huge. This isn't little. This is not little. As a matter of fact, when I was notified of this, I was completely floored, right? Because this is so big that someone has been manipulating Devlin's account. And if it was Devlin, like I said, they would have found him easy. Hook, line, and sinker. You know, I do. I do. Multiple people, Sam. Yeah, multiple people. Um, I do have a couple of people in mind that could have had access to Devlin's Facebook. I will say that when it comes to Tamra, if she was the one to have done it, then she must not know how the digital footprints work and all of that, because she too had reported that activity, um, on his account, and so I can only, with her at least, say that she couldn't have been the one to do it if she's that adamant about finding out who did. And that's where I sit with that. I do think that there's a high possibility that maybe Sabrina could have been the one to do it since she was closest to Devlin. But then again, I can't discount that maybe Devlin gave his mother, who he did have a lot of trust in, that information. So I'm just going to say that it's still very much up in the air for me. The posts that were deleted were two posts. One was a post that was for his mother, a song dedicated to Jessica, that was on March 30th. And then we have the 31st. And then the 1st, he posted another song stating that he couldn't take it anymore and that him and Tammy had been fighting, right? Basically. And that was 20 days before he went missing. Those two posts were deleted. So I don't know who would have deleted them. But I know that it's not going to take law enforcement long to figure it out. Law enforcement can work with Facebook to work with them to get the info for sure, Sam. Like, I believe that they can figure it out quick, you know? I don't think so. I don't think they would need to get a warrant. I think that Facebook is pretty um open when it comes to that information. So, just one second, guys. I'm sorry about that. Thank you so much, Little Miss Sharon, for gifting a Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives membership. If you got a membership from Little Miss Sharon, please say thank you and welcome to the Dragon Tribe. Thank you so much, Little Miss Sharon. I so very much appreciate you. I just realized that I got a text message about the Texas Roadhouse just a little while ago. So I apologize. Um, Thank you so much, Little Miss Sharon. Um, Wonder how long that request to process will take. Whoever did it made a grave error. Even if they used a VPN, it would tip off LE with a path to follow. I agree. I agree with that, KJ Mac, 100%. 100%. I think that, they will be able to pinpoint all of that activity. So I'd be really worried whoever did that, that law enforcement is going to figure it out. Like you said, even with a VPN, you know? So, yeah, I'm just wondering, um, I mean, it's just the strange behavior, Shadow, and that's the only thing that makes me think that, that's what kind of backs up my theory. Um, Error message is happening to the person who sends the message to Devlin's account, and only one person or everyone who messages him, to be clear. Everyone who has messaged him thus far recently, Sam, has said that they got an error message back. And that was on Facebook Messenger. So the topics that were deleted are very interesting to me too. Um, Very interesting, because I wouldn't think that, for Jessica's standpoint, I wouldn't think that she would want to erase something like that, a dedicated song to her, and then she's very adamant that Tamara has guilty knowledge, that Tamara has something to do with Devlin's disappearance. She believes that Sabrina has guilty knowledge, that Will has guilty knowledge, the Tates are guilty, right? That is Jessica's drum that she has been beating and she will continue to beat. Um, but it wouldn't be proper if I didn't exhaust every single option at that, it just wouldn't be proper for Devlin. Um, and of course, you know, if somebody has such and anger towards someone else, I always have to look at that as well. That's going to shoot up red flags for me too. You know, she really, really doesn't believe that anybody else is responsible besides the Tates. And so would she do something to make the Tates look worse? And because she doesn't understand technology, you know, she always tells us that, even though she can hop up on any panel and vape. I hope it doesn't, you know, but Indigo, I will say just um kind of a disclaimer. Um oh, welcome to the Dragon Tribe, Kitty Hawk. Um so yeah, just a disclaimer, the police are not again going to work with me, even if this is what breaks the case wide open was these deleted posts, right? They're not going to, hey, Justice for New, welcome back. They are not going to update me, you know, which is good and bad. Because of course I want an update, but in the same way, they would be jeopardizing their investigation by doing that because they don't know if I'm going to just come up here and blab it to all of you guys. Also, you know, they have to keep their own personal integrity about themselves and not share, you know, details of the case with anyone. Good night, Miss Ann. Thank you for being here. So, you know, that is one thing I have got to always consider. And, you know, even though we can speculate and talk about these topics, I don't see any closure until Devlin is found completely. But then also, I just have to trust that law enforcement is doing their best. And that's a good segue into Sebastian Rogers' case. You know, with Sebastian Rogers' case, as we were talking tonight with Jen on the panel, um, you know, we have Sebastian who has been missing since February of 2024, right? And he went missing from his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee. But some of the details surrounding Sebastian Rogers' case are a lot like in Devlin's case, close to the vest with law enforcement. One thing that we don't have in Devlin's case that we do have in Sebastian's case is a very big mistrust for law enforcement. And with that distrust is coming with a lot of people believing YouTube creators over what they already know that law enforcement has been putting out because of the lack of information from law enforcement. It's caused people to speculate more wildly, in my opinion. We really hit home tonight that there is no evidence that Sebastian ever left the house the night of February 25th, 2024 into the early morning hours of January 26th, 2024. So that is very curious and worrisome. But it's good to know that we have another option or another avenue to look for Sebastian. The problem is that we have so much misinformation in Sebastian Rogers' case, and some that have really let it go to their head. Um, in my opinion, with the information that they're being given, right? And with that comes, you know, some responsibility to again preserve the integrity of an open and ongoing investigation. And so I would just urge everyone to ask people for receipts. If one is not willing to produce a receipt, or if they get upset with you for asking, then that's probably a pretty good indication that they're not being truthful. Like I said on Jen's panel earlier, I will believe that Katie arrived 40 minutes after she left the Texas Roadhouse to her residence, which is only 10 minutes away, give or take. I will never believe that until I see a receipt. And when I say a receipt on that, I am saying I want the neighbor's camera that caught Katie. Either I want to see the raw footage, which would be the best, or I would even accept a screenshot with a timestamp on it that is stating that Katie did in fact make it home 40 minutes after she and Sebastian left the Texas Roadhouse. Until I have that information, I am not going to believe any of that, right? And that's just where I stand in my opinion on the matter is. And that really goes for everything. And so again, even though I think that Sebastian could have made it home, I also have to consider that it's a strong possibility that he didn't. And so until I have more proof on either side of the aisle, I'm going to have to just kind of work both of those theories out. Um, the fact remains is that Sebastian is still missing and we don't know where he could be. Even if we think that someone picked up Sebastian in a car, right, that night, because that would be the most logical reasoning, or that there was a handoff before he got home, or even quite possibly that something happened in the 33 minutes that it took Katie to report her son missing. It also depends a lot on premeditation or whether this was something that was somewhat of an accident. And I'm not really sure which one it is, even though, again, I have my thoughts on a premeditation since it's been so long. But I've also thought about the fact that something could have happened that was unexpected. So I hate to sit on the fence, but without more information, I would hate to make a definitive conclusion without knowing. Thanks, Indigo. I just hope that people will just consider that because people are proud of we're proud of our receipts. If we get a receipt for something, we're like, hey guys, check this out. Look, this is it. Point to it, circle it, underline it, but when people don't do that, it just really I mean, I just turn the TV off or whatever, not my phone or whatever it is. KJ Max says, I wish I could remember the name of the person that started the 40-minute rumor. I don't know where it came from either, KJ. She was all over the chat saying it, and some of us dismissed it, but she kept on with it, even with no real bias. Well, and see, or excuse me, basis. I know, and see, that's the biggest thing is that like a lot of this stuff does get started in the chats. And even with Devlin's case, a lot of that stuff would be started in like a Facebook thread, a post. And then all of the comments. Thank you, KJ. Yeah, I'd like to know. So just so I can consider the source, it's not that I want to go bash that person, and that person could be absolutely correct. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying until I see a receipt for it, I'm never going to believe that. Right? I want to see some proof cuz otherwise it's going to throw off everything. That throws off everything. 40 minutes is a long time, especially when we know how long it takes to get there and back. I mean, I've driven it. You guys watched me drive it. I pulled out of the Texas Roadhouse and went straight to Chris and Katie's house from the Texas Roadhouse. Jen and I went straight from Chris and Katie's house to the Texas Roadhouse. Jeff was with us too. But so you can see it from both ways. JLR has done the trip, right? He took the 3 different routes in the very, very beginning. Um, So, those are the types of things that I like to go off of. And guys, again, I do want to reiterate with the cemetery, there is Shackle Island Fire Department right across the street. We have the Masonic Lodge, and then there is a long building, and then there's the cemetery, and then on the other side of the cemetery is a church. So I just want to put that into perspective because you don't really understand it until you're there. You don't understand it until you're actually there, how close everything really is. And I think it's just important to remember that, as well as the fact that there's going to be lots of cameras in that area. Um, and so even the church said there were cameras, and they changed the cameras over. So they got new cameras, you know. So I just want to kind of put that into perspective too, because I didn't realize how close everything was until I got there. You got the school, you got the cemetery, the new construction, Sebastian's house, or Sebastian subdivision, but right there is the Shackle Island fire station right across the street. Oh, okay, so they're not a local. Thanks, KJ. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I saw that JLR did, and he was doing such a great job and then stopped talking about the case. I know, Shadow. I think he was doing a good job too. I mean, he really did go boots on the ground there. And then also, I'll never forget the video that he posted where he said that all the locals think that Chris and Katie are guilty, and I believe that, especially after going there. It's just people are afraid to rock the boat. Yeah, see, that's so crazy. I watched her start that narrative in another chat. I'll go pop in and see if I see it. I'm certain it's not a local nor a creator, and she thought she discovered the smoke and pew pew. Oh my goodness, KJ Mac. And I mean, everybody wants that. We want that so badly, we do. But in the same way, again, law enforcement has all of that footage. And if they would have seen that major discrepancy, I really believe that something would have happened sooner, you know? Oh, this was over a month ago? Okay, so I'm just now hearing about it. Thanks, KJ. Wow, that's interesting. So it's been circulating. Very, very interesting. Well, guys, I better hop off of here because I didn't want to do an extremely long live because, I was on with Jen and everything, but I did want to give you guys a couple of those updates just really quick about, Devlin's case in terms of the Facebook and what we kind of found out about, how those messages could have came over. Um, Also, I just want to reiterate in both of these cases, be very careful with what you guys believe without the receipts, because I try to just hold that up too, because it's hard because we want that smoking pew pew, KJ. We want that. I know we all do, so I don't fault anybody. I don't hate anybody over that because it's just something that we just really want. We want to find these kids. And then also, guys, just so everybody knows, I will be going to Hendersonville for a trip at the end of February. So we're going to do some crowdsourcing there. So, in the next couple of months, we'll be getting ready for that. And I appreciate all of your support and all of your guys' help with that. I also am going to make sure that I do some signage, for us all to hold up signs. I'll do like the glitter glue or something, um, for signage for Sebastian. I know Seth has those beautiful signs that he's probably going to put up and everything else too. So, yes, little Miss Sharon, thank you so much for being here, guys. And again, I apologize for any of the craziness. I'm working on getting a tighter ship around here. It's just a long time coming. Oh, and then also for mods, I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm gonna be doing like a mod Discord. So that way we can share links and stuff like that. You guys can help me share some of these links out. And then just so we can be kind of in the know with what's going on with the channel. And we'll be rolling that out here in the next couple of weeks because I know, just from my trip last time, it's exhausting kind of traveling around. So I know it's going to be kind of sporadic at the end of the month there. And also, I'm going to want to be, filming and getting things together for us to view after the trip. So, yeah, Shadow, I can't wait. I really just I want to encourage everyone to come out for Seth if they can. For Sebastian, he needs people's voices, and especially if anybody is very adamant that Sebastian is in that cemetery, we need law enforcement to look into that lead. So even if you're coming from that standpoint, please, by all means, we need everyone there. Thank you, KJ. Thank you so much for being here. And I love all of you guys so very, very much. Please say prayers, share Sebastian's flyer, share Devlin's flyer, and let's keep working to bring them home. Thank you guys.